If it's a Thursday night, you know your boys are potting. Welcome to Pals Pulls. The gang is all here. We have Cale,
What's up, pot dogs?
Marco,
Pod racing?
Tyler,
Ooh, can I call Ben Quanginaros or is it Bulba if we're doing that?
and I'm Sean. Very happy, very happy to be here with you guys. For Pals Pulls, we have five,
Count 'em.
five of this week's biggest books to talk about here on the show. We have Ultimate Spider-Man #4.
Let's go.
Yeah. We've got Rise of the Powers of X #4.
Let's
Looks like he's
go.
doing a little twerk on the cover there.
We have X-Men Forever #2.
Let's go.
Unsurprising cover choice there, Sean.
I had to do it, man. I had to. The cover A is actually really nice,
Yeah, it's
but dude,
yeah.
come on.
That's Marquez too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how could I not? How could I not? We have this might not be the right order. My stack is messed up right now. Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives #1. That
Oh, you
won
got the cover I
listener-
was gonna get.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, right, dude.
We'll see you later.
I-
We'll see you later. I got the slide for it. Don't worry.
I came here prepared to make that joke, and then I forgot to make it.
Don't worry. I
Um,
got you.
Yeah.
I missed it.
Yeah.
Okay, so look at the cover again.
It'll be a slide later.
See?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just leaning into the bit now.
And the Six Fingers #3, which I do not have.
Oh,
I do not have it. I had a mishap that I will explain later.
Can't wait.
Yeah. We
Fell off
we
the
have
truck.
we have stack related discussions to have later on.
This
for
has been a
sure.
recurring thing the past 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Are you okay, or are you just trying to make the segment a little more entertaining?
I am absolutely not okay, and I am
song.
absolutely not trying to make the segment more entertaining. It just so happens that whatever's going on with me hopefully translates into entertainment for you guys, because it ain't fun for me. One thing I hate is not buying the comics I'm supposed to buy.
And listen, Sean is not a violent man.
that's right. He's not. Can't be.
Well, all right. Any week we get to talk about Ultimate Spider-Man is a week on which I am very pleased. And this is one such week. We've got Ultimate Spider-Man #4 on tap. We're going to lead with this. Jonathan Hickman on the words, joined this month by David Messina, giving series artist Marco Cicchetto a little bit of a break, which is to be expected in modern comics. It's just how it goes. Colors by Matthew Wilson and letters by Corey Pettit. This is the double date. I mean, it's a very different issue, but it reminded me of the Batman, Selena, Superman, Lois double date issue.
Yeah, same.
And it's Peter and MJ, it's Harry and his date. We'll drop that bombshell in a quick moment. And that's all it is. But it's so much more than that at the same time. I'm very interested to hear where you guys land on this particular issue. I'm going to open the conversation by leading with the bombshell. And if you do not want to hear this, now is absolutely the time to skip ahead. It's going to be very difficult to talk about this without saying the bombshell more than once. So you might even want to skip to a later review if you're listening to this in the future. If so, hello. And if you're listening to this live, take the headphones off for a few minutes, because Marco didn't get to the issue. This issue is revealed that Harry's wife is none other than Ultimate Gwen Stacy.
Yo, jaw dropped. I'm like, oh, let's see who's good. Huh? Okay.
So I got to this. I was making the thumbnail for the show, and I wanted to do a quick title for it. So I was like, all right, let me just flip through the book real quick. And I flipped to that before I even read it, and I was like, son of shit. Spoiled myself.
There was something, not to say that I called it, issue 1 or, after the announcement or whatever, but there was something about the page turn that made me go, oh, of course it's Gwen Stacy.
Yeah. I don't know what it was about it, but I was just like, yeah, of course it's Gwen Stacy. Sure.
Who else could it be?
Yeah.
I mean, that's Ultimate
felt
Spider-Man.
Too obvious?
Yeah.
For me, it's not in a bad way. It's just that it didn't shock me.
Sure. Okay.
It made. Do you mind? You see this? Good grief. It made sense in a way that adds up. Not necessarily in a bad way, just in a not surprising way.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time a Gwen Stacy was sleeping with a Green Goblin, so.
Whoa. Yeah.
True. So I like it. It's fine. Gwen Stacy is a staple character of Spider-Man. Even if she's dead in 616, I think you're always going to see her pop up. The OG Ultimate Spider-Man, she was a very prominent character in that. So, fair play. Absolutely fair play.
And I think it's always interesting to see her when she's not, the perfect woman.
Right.
A lot of people might not know this. One of the reasons Stan wanted to kill her was he was like, there's nothing here. There's nothing else I can do. She's the perfect woman. We've got to get rid of her.
And to what Cale's talking about, in the characterization here of Gwen, she's very forward. She's very forward. She has specific beliefs. She's the CEO, I think, of Oscorp. I think that's what I got out of this conversation.
I believe so. Yeah.
She's a very, very, very successful person in business, and I think that the characteristics that lead to a person attaining this level of success are present in her character. And she almost bulldozes the Parkers just because of how forthright she is, and I enjoyed that. I've always been a fan of Gwen Stacy's, but if you really get into the weeds about like who is she, who is this character, everything you're gonna say is gonna be something nice and positive and good, and that's it. Because then she died, and when they muddied her up a little bit by putting her in bed with old Norman, that freaked everybody out because Gwen Stacy was, the for lack of a better phrase, like the Virgin Mary of of comics. Like she is perfect.
Yeah, Gwen Stacy and Barry Allen were the two untouchables of comics before 2010. Well, before Sin's passed, for sure.
And I think they did something similar with MJ in this as well. MJ's history is always, she's a model. And it's so based on that. But we already learned, this MJ was a model, but she's more of a marketing director now, which sounds boring for a comic book when I say it that way. But it's more of in the sense that she's like an image cleaner.
Right.
And I like that addition to her because it adds nuance to something, but still retains that original kind of core tenet of the character. This issue actually reminded me of Hickman's X-Men issue of that Apocalypse in the Suit. Just that sit-down people talking issue.
Good
I think to sort of go a step further with what you're saying about MJ, I think it's a very grown-up issue of comic books. And what I mean by that is it's an issue about people, who just met, going out to dinner and learning about each other in a very adult way.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that often bothers me about issues like this that center character is that a lot of times the dialogue just doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like people conversing.
Hmm.
And Hickman, to me, is one of the premier masters of dialogue in comics. And the thing that he gets so right is that he's actually able to micro progress the plot forward while informing us about who these characters are and driving their relationships forward in meaningful ways, all within the confines of this dinner conversation. Somehow I was never bored. And I actually came into this conversation expecting at least one person here to say, this issue was kind of boring. And it doesn't seem like that's the vibe here. And I'm really glad for that because the dialogue was so crisp that I was on the hook for all of it.
I mean, I think it's you can say it's boring in the sense that like it is boring the fact that no action happens, but I don't think it's like a negative thing. I thought it was really interesting, and it was realistic too. I don't know which one of you said it, but it did feel like a real like adults talking to each other thing. The part that gets me is when MJ and Peter leave the restaurant. They instantly start talking, not talking shit, but they're like, you know, they do that after get together. What's the word
Oh,
called?
so that was
Wrap up.
nice. They seemed
Yeah.
they seemed
Yeah.
really
Little
intense.
debrief.
Intense.
Yeah, yeah. It felt realistic, which it's really cementing this as an adult Peter Parker, which we've been kind of prevented from ever getting. He's always on the cusp, and he is like a young adult, but this is like Dad Peter, married Dad Peter, and he has been for a while.
And I think also to that, there's always been an aspect of him having to handle it alone, like him not having somebody in his court. And in this, like right at the end, she says like, I've got you. Like, what do I need heroes for? I've got you. And obviously that's a play into something that happens in the issue in the conversation. But um, he feels comfortable in being able to do that and communicate with MJ. So for that, I think also another sort of end of an adult issue.
And I want to say to people that are, frustrated by the pace of this series or, situations like this one, if you're a fan, and I'm specifically talking to hardcore Spider-Man fans right now.
Oh, good. I'll check out.
If you're a hardcore Spider-Man fan who dislikes Amazing and you've spent the last 10 years of your life angry about One More Day and the dissolution of the marriage and everything else, and you want Peter to grow up, I feel like this is what that looks like. I feel like what we're getting now is that. To me, as someone who definitely felt that way when One More Day happened, this is what I thought we'd get. Like, this is what I want to get. This is compelling to me because it's radically different, right? Like, you're never going to see this kind of issue in a mainline Spider-Man book. And if it's not written by a master like Hickman, it's not going to come across this way. I normally we save the comments. I wanted to touch on Atomic Hound. He said he thought it was boring. And I'm curious as to why. Like, I guess, yeah, I'm curious to hear why.
I
wondering
mean,
if he's just saying it
I've seen
because-
some
Oh, go ahead.
I've seen conversation of just like, oh, there weren't punches thrown, there wasn't action, and I feel like sometimes that gets defined as what becomes interesting. Not to say that that's what, not to put words in Atomic Hound's mouth, but I know a lot of times it's like there wasn't movement in a physical sense, but here we get a lot of movement as it comes to people's intentions, as it comes to the way that people navigate with themselves. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but we finally got the words of wisdom dropped onto Peter, and it was interesting from the who that source was.
Okay, Atomic Hound did respond. Tyler said it well, interesting, but this felt somewhat like Wonder Woman 7 without the over-the-top attempts at jokes.
That was the shopping mall issue, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know though, because that issue's sort of superfluous to the overall idea of the Wonder Woman series, whereas this is pretty integral to what's going on. I mean, on the one hand, you know, Harry clearly wants to have a conversation with Peter about what they're really doing. And, you know, on the other side of that, which I thought was arguably more interesting, was the fact that Gwen is getting in the mix and she pulls MJ aside to have a conversation about investing into the paper. And I think that in an issue, in an individual issue, that is not movement. Not much, right? But think about how that could play out. If she's putting money behind the paper, behind Jonah and Uncle Ben, and now they have more resources, they become more dangerous to the Kingpin. And that puts them even deeper into his crosshairs. And we can all see this is going to end badly. And they're all complicit. And I can easily see someone involved in this dying.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely thought of it as direct competition, but you're right that in that case, Kingpin becomes and we already, figured with his presence, he'd become the main antagonist, but this is the way this is the way how it's gonna happen. And based off the conversation, I also don't trust Harry. There's something there's an undertone of not of kind of a manipulation. They're playing a couple chess moves ahead and bringing them in as if this is going to be a good opportunity.
I think the coloring and the art kind of alludes to that as well. I mean, Cale had me pull a couple pages from this, but a lot of the times when Harry is talking to Peter, it's in this like half lit, really dark and menacing kind of way.
Yeah.
Which made me really feel like, oh, something bad is going to happen because of this. It's a lot like it almost, I mean, not a spoiler for Spider-Man 2 for the PlayStation, but the Harry in that, or maybe good intentions at the offset, but it can get bad.
Marowak just said literally what I was about to say. Gwen dies again, Harry becomes evil. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm reading everybody at this in this conversation as genuine. I didn't feel that there was any ulterior motives. I think that everybody involved is going to get way too in over their heads. Harry says and we need to touch on this part. Obviously, the conversation between Harry and Peter. Harry is confused about why he hasn't told MJ about him being Spider-Man. And Peter tells Harry, "Hey, it's important for us to, keep our loved ones safe." And Harry's not really that swayed by that. And Peter's not even sure he should be doing this as a father. And Harry is telling him, "Hey man, we have to save the world. We have a mission here." To this point, Peter's been having a blast and he's been stopping small petty crime. Harry's talking about saving the entire planet and he's just a guy.
Yeah.
Peter has powers. They're all in over their heads.
And the one thing that's not explicitly stated in this issue, but I think there's a bit of revenge on Harry's mind as well, because his dad Norman was killed in the blast.
Of course.
Yeah, he's one of the missing.
That's just like inherent in him, that like he has it's Harry versus the world in a way, because the world and the state of it led to the death of his father.
So probably the most critical piece of this issue is in the midst of the conversation between Harry and Peter. Harry drops a bombshell that we always sort of wondered where this was going to come from. And I'm going to read a little bit from the issue now. So Harry says, "You need to understand where this is headed and what we're up against. These people, they're playing God and they're playing for keeps. And worse than that, they've been doing it our whole lives. It's institutional. It's systemic. It's the whole damn world. And you have great power, Peter. And with great power comes great responsibility. It's such a gift, but only if you use it."
And even in like the 616, I don't think it was ever explicitly stated that way from the character. It was all narration, I believe.
I don't recall, but my memory, for whatever reason, says, of course, that Uncle Ben said that to Peter. But either way, Peter's journey in this series so far has been, I am a middle-aged man, sort of. And I have the life that I've always wanted to have, but something is missing for me. He's going through his midlife crisis. Going out and being Spider-Man in this way is irresponsible when you consider the life that he has. So it's the question of, if I can do the right thing, the most best thing for the world around me, for society, is it okay to risk my family? It's the macro versus the micro. And he's going to have to pay a cost if he chooses to continue to be Spider-Man. And I think that's brilliant and fascinating. Go ahead.
There's another point to that with that other page I had you post, Tyler. Gwen is talking. It's the one where the wine glass is in the middle of the page. So I'm going to take a read of this. And what she says is Gwen says, "You're welcome. Anyway, if you look at the coverage of it, it's sanitized, surrounded. It's not the stories that are corporate. They are, of course, but they're institutionally obtuse. They all miss the point of the masked man." And then in the wine glass, you see reflected Peter and MJ. And someone off panel asks, which is? I wanted to ask you guys what you thought of the art there, because it was a little confusing for me. Is the point of the masked man Peter's family? Is it the relationship between Peter and MJ? Is it just a cool angle?
So my read, I sort of feel like this conversation is furthering that what Peter is doing is going to drive a wedge between him and MJ. That the purpose of the masked man, can theoretically supersede his relationship. Depending on what Peter chooses to do.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I was reading this as this was a bit more tact. This was maybe not metaphor, but just like I'm thinking about your paper. I'm thinking about the dynamic there, and this is how I see it, how I see the world, the function of the paper. I almost like gassing up in order to get the sell.
It's not only the sell of the paper though. It's all because Peter's the one who responds with which is, because Peter's unsure of what Spider-Man is, or the reason for Spider-Man, or the point of Spider-Man. And later on, we know that Gwen knows Peter's Spider-Man. Harry told her. Yeah. So this is her, I guess, hiding the pitch for the paper, but it's really a pitch for Harry's vision for the both of them as heroes. Because she's part of that. So I think that's her playing it, it's the subtext of it is what's actually happening here. That she's asking, like, what's the point of the masked man? Peter should know the point of it, and trying to have him come to that realization.
And then Harry comes and closes.
Yeah, it's a pitch. It's a pitch meeting.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the art. We are without main series artist Marco Cicchetto, but Messina's no slouch, and almost the entire conversation takes place in 9-panel grids, which I think is great for handling, longer conversations in comics. And I think it's used pretty effectively. I didn't mind the absence of Marco's art, but I would not be as happy with this series if Messina was the main artist of the book. I think he does a solid job with the facial work. There's a lot of stuff to get across with the looks of characters and things like that. And I think he does a good enough job, even if Harry's smile is sometimes a little bit over the top. Um, it's a shame though that we don't get to see him do any action sequences.
For me, it's missing the biggest part of this that he's missing is Harry's waves. I don't like how Ultimate Harry Osborn doesn't have the waves.
You got to differentiate it somehow, you know.
I guess, but that, like in my mind, that's such a visual indicator of an Osborn.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not an Osborn.
Maybe.
Dun, dun, dun.
I think he put some special spit polish into Gwen.
Yeah.
And man, he did not pay attention to almost anybody else in the same way.
I felt it. Could feel. I definitely felt the difference. It didn't bother. It was serviceable, but similarly, Sean, I bring him back.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Still very much a pull. I had a great time with this issue. And it's one of those things where it's like, man, I know that something shitty is gonna happen soon. And I'm along for the ride to see where that goes. I really love this so far.
This was my favorite. This has been my favorite issue of Ultimate Spider-Man so far.
It's the most different, honestly. It's the most that it kind of states its MO for what this book, why it exists.
I think this fulfills the premise to me of adult Spider-Man more than the others have so far.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Oh, whoa. Before we get to that, we all pulled, of course.
Yeah,
right?
Pull.
Okay, cool. Thanks for hanging out with us live or in the future. If you are enjoying what we're doing right now, Hulk smash that like button to let the YouTube algorithm know that you enjoy what we're doing. If you are watching us and you are not subscribed, now would be a great time to subscribe to our channel to make sure that you are always tapped into what we're doing, whether it's Pals Pulls, whether it's the main show, which is going to be a blast this week, or it's our book club. The next book club is coming up on Tuesday. This upcoming Tuesday, we're going to be talking Mr. Miracle. So
Let's go.
Tuesday the 30th should be a great time. By the way, I want to remind you guys that regardless of what we say about the books, we are not the arbiters of quality. You should always make up your own mind about the comics that you're interested in. Look at us as, the same way you would look at a review on IGN. We're just a few of your friends telling you what we think about the books, and you can decide for yourself after.
And like IGN, we're going to give everything a 7.
My word is scripture, actually.
I would even consider us less official than IGN. We have a very binary system.
Fair. But IGN also doesn't have 20 minutes to talk to you about the thoughts of 4 people about one comic.
Well,
so I feel like we get a lot out.
They used to, and I kind of miss it, honestly. But
yeah, well,
they
don't have it, and we do. Exactly. Patreon.com/thecomicspals. If you want to support what we do, that is the absolute best way to do that. You get yourself a nickname and a shout out on the main show every single week. You get access to an exclusive podcast called Palling Around, where we talk about whatever we want to talk about. And you get access to our weekly newsletters, amongst other things. Patrons get to come hang out with us once a month on Discord, community hangout. It's a lot of fun. We're having our next one this Sunday, so that's a shout out to all you patrons to make sure that if you want to come hang out with us, you make some time for your pals at 1 p.m. Eastern. Come prepared to talk about anything comics. It should be a fun time. It always is. All right. Rise of the Powers of X, number 4.
We're here.
We sure are. This is written by Kieran Gillen with art by R.B. Silva, colors by David Curiel, letters by Clayton Cowles. The cover's nice. This is a really cool cover. I'm going to show it again. I love it. It's got Professor Xavier on his hands and knees with skulls under him and a tree on fire in the background. It's meant to evoke the idea that, Krakoa was on fire.
That just looks like
Sick
any
cover.
white drag queen doing a lip sync battle on RuPaul's Drag Race, but I digress.
Busy
All right.
cover.
You do digress.
I
Dang.
digress.
So, this issue is more of the Professor X, villainy, the villain turn, the heel turn. He pops Rasputin.
Fucking
But good.
diabolical.
Yeah.
How many times he pull that trigger?
Whew.
We don't even know. And he's just doing favors for Omega Sentinel and Orcus. He's just their weapon now. He's just their weapon.
Their weapon mix.
Yeah, right.
Nice.
I've always said that Civil War II is the biggest character assassination of any comic book character in Marvel Comics with Captain Marvel. Not anymore. I don't know what is going on here with Professor X. And then, so it's hard to talk about this book without talking about X-Men Forever as well, because they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, we do see reasoning, but I'm also like, damn, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a lot to get to that point.
Like I've, Sean has complained a lot about this sort of overall villainization of Xavier over the past, few years and few arcs, arcs in the big sense of Xavier. And I've sort of been on that train of like, I don't know, he's probably not the guy everybody thinks he is. So I've been sort of on that train. But I think here is the point where I'm like, okay, no, this isn't right.
It's a lot.
So I'm going to say this again when we do the recap of Krakoa. But here's the thing. Jonathan Hickman was clearly analyzing and evaluating Professor Xavier and his behavior. He wasn't presented as a good guy, but he wasn't presented as a bad guy either. There was a nuance and, there was a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Just like with Moira. Moira was never wholly good either. She was out for herself, and we all were aware of that. But it feels like all the nuance of all of that is sucked out of all the characters that had it before, and now they're just bad, or they're just good, and that's it. And Professor Xavier is doing things that are ultimately for the overall good, but nobody in universe thinks that. He's being presented to those characters as bad. He could just as easily tell everybody, hey, here's the plan. This is what we're going to do. It's going to work, and blah, blah, blah. But no, instead of that, he's shooting people. He's killing humans all over the place, which is insane to me. Yeah. And it's just like, oh, yeah, this is what I got to do. This is it.
Yeah,
he should have killed that kid.
Yeah, he would have killed a kid. And I get it. He's been through a lot. And he's hurting, and I totally understand that, but I don't know. I gotta give space for the fact that whether I enjoy it or not, Kieran Gillen is telling a story with this character, and he's got a reason, and that is fair enough. But for me, it's just it's not working for me.
But the reason feels like plot at this point. He's trying to get to a place with a character because this is the character that he has. It doesn't that level of depth and complexity doesn't exist.
It's hard to argue with that. I don't know how to argue with that.
And I don't think there is a world where this Xavier can exist. But it's ramped up in speed and the drastic measures that Xavier has done so quickly that, he was like, all right, he was like pragmatic and like, okay, he would do stuff for mutant kind that maybe other people wouldn't. Oh, now he's just killing people. Like, it's such a ramp up that it just doesn't track for me. Which I guess maybe that is the story of Krakoa. It ramps up to some explosion that kills it. But yeah, this is not doing anything for me at all, this book.
But I mean, like, it can ramp up to that, but it's not doing so in grace. Like, have a little, a little presence of mind to close this thing out. Because I feel like the majority of the books are going out with a whimper, and we're frustrated with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the line that gets me kind of looking through this again is when he's talking to Moira and he says, "For once, us mutants must be on the winning side." And I'm like, that's not Xavier. That's not what he would stand for. When literally 2 panels above, Omega Sentinel asks if he wants to know how many people he's complicit in killing. He says 1 is too many.
Right? That, like, then he wouldn't go through with it. If that's where his morals are, then he wouldn't have gone through with, oh, select these, who here is lying and has doubt, who's gonna rebel. These 5, blah blah blah. Like,
But it's because of the perception that Professor Xavier's morals don't exist, that they're extremely malleable. And that is so, maybe it's a generational thing. I really don't know. But and I'm open to that. My first interpretation of Professor Xavier is the animated series, where he is a good guy, and the next one is the movies, where he is a good guy. So to come to the world of comics, which of course I came here a long time ago, and the perception being that Professor X is not a very good guy, has always struck me strange. And to me, this is the culmination of that logic. Professor Xavier is not Magneto. He is not a mutant supremacist. He does not put the lives of mutants above the lives of humans. That's not how he works. And there is absolutely nothing about the Krakoan era up until now that makes me think any differently than that about him. It's now that he's being made this way.
And even like comics Professor X, I don't think he's been inherently an evil guy. I agree that he's not a good guy, but he's a just guy. Because like there's a whole that classic page, Kitty Pryde saying Professor X is a jerk. He's kind of a jerk, and he does kind of put his children in situations that maybe they're not the most equipped for, but he still does it.
He has an army of children. That's not a good thing.
But it's just in the way he does it. Do you know what I mean? Like, is it good that he was in the Illuminati? Probably not, but it was for the greater good of humanity, even at that point.
Exactly. It's not the greater good of mutants. It's the greater good of humanity.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, even if the story is that post what was the Mr. Sinister, Sins of Sinister? Post that, and he's still infected with Sinister, or it unlocks something in him, maybe. But that story isn't being told here.
I don't want that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I
don't think so.
Let him be in that fucking prison cell, Prisoner X. Let him be in there for a couple of years. Put this man on ice.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite comic book characters. I love Professor Xavier. And right now, I don't know who this is. But let's divert, because there's other things to discuss from this issue. So they're trying to resurrect the Phoenix. And Professor X's overall strategy has been, okay, you guys won't let me do what I wanted to do. Then the only way we can survive all this is to resurrect the Phoenix, because the Phoenix can beat back what we're dealing with. I have a hard time with that, because I feel like there are many mutants who are extremely powerful, and they shouldn't even be in this position, but whatever. So the only thing that they can do is resurrect the Phoenix. And, Jean Grey is being carted around. And I guess they're going to try to make her the Phoenix, but then they've got all these women who have been the Phoenix, and they might be able to, do some Phoenix shit and save the world. In the midst of all of that, which is all fine. I don't have a problem with that. Like, okay, cool. In the midst of all of that, we get an incredible data page where essentially Enigma, the sinister Enigma, is on AIM, and he is messaging all the people in the AIM group chat, all the other Dominions. And he's telling them, yo, can you guys come over here, please? Can we hang out? I'm lonely. And they're like, we'll go over, but only if the Phoenix is there. And it took 2 data pages to express this. And I'm going to show them to you now. Because this is what we are paying for. This is what
Yeah, I want to see what that looks like in print.
This is what we're paying for. Look at this.
Damn.
That's what's on the page.
Even from a graphic design perspective, nothing about that is appealing looking. Like
Will you show the next one too, Sean?
The Hickman stuff at least had some design to it, you know, with Mueller stuff. And oh my god, see, like that is egregious, honestly.
I have defended the recent data pages. I feel like the recent data pages have at least hold on.
Cale, turn that off.
They have at least justified themselves in the meat of the conversation. Mostly. They're still not as good as Hickman stuff. They're not even as good as some of the side stuff we've read in other places. But they're justifiable. This one makes absolutely no sense to me. I don't. Why? Why not just put all that on the Gene page?
It's an egregious example because there, to me, in my opinion, when I'm reading that first one, there's information on there that is unnecessary. I don't feel as though we need anything more. Because what I just said, hey, can you guys come through? Need a hand? Okay, we'll come through if the Phoenix is there. That is the only thing that you need to get out of that. So I feel like that can be a panel or a couple of panels. I don't think that needs to be data pages, but because they have to have them for some reason, these pages, then we get stuff like that. And it's like, it's not attractive to look at. It's not really that informative this time around either. So why do we have it?
It's lazy. That's lazy. You're saving 2 pages.
Let's talk about. Sorry, Tyler. Go ahead.
I'm trying to figure out the intent of the laziness, though. Like, it literally has no benefit.
I again, you know, I said it. I said it last week. I hesitate on the lazy thing because there clearly is some kind of need to have these data pages. Like I don't know if it's a mandate. I don't know if it's just like what they want to do, but they can't get away from this. So for some reason, they just have to do it. But when you're a purchaser of the damn comic and you're trying to enjoy it, and you get sucked out of the RB Silva artwork into this, it's like, come on, man, this isn't good looking.
And that's considered a page of the book. So theoretically, the artist is getting paid 2 pages less for this issue that aren't actually drawn.
That's a good point. The only thing on the art front that I wanted to call out in this for this particular issue was a lot of the color choices. Sometimes they'd get muddied. There are these moments of usages of browns and blacks that I think it did not contrast well with some of the other colors. I think some of the brighter ones, like there's the spring page with all the flowers, really pretty, really nice, great designs. But prior to that, you got these like poopy greens. You have towards the end, as where is it? I think as Rachel is like, they're taking down one of the Sentinels. With Exodus, a lot of that page is just super muddy. The only critique that I had from an art standpoint, I think, depending on who can color, it drives a little bit more, I think, variety.
Yeah, I mean, this is a creative team from the art standpoint, RB Silva and David Curiel, that have been doing this in the Krakoan space for some time. And so I will say that the art doesn't feel like it's hitting the highs that I anticipate from Silva and Curiel. And I think that I don't know. It's not as good as I'm used to, but I still enjoy what they're doing.
Yeah,
And is it me or do the faces look a little traced?
I think it's the thin lines. I mostly
yeah.
saw the very just like thin usage of lines, some tone to distinguish like shadows and stuff.
Like I'm looking at the last page with Jean, and it just seemed like there's something off about the face work here, where it seemed either highly referenced, which is fine, but like yeah, it's just not hitting the cartoony highs that some of the drawing on like some of the art on the original Hoxpox did for me. This just seems overly rendered.
I on the other end of the spectrum, maybe, or even maybe just further down, I don't like this art. I think I've had it with Silva and Curiel. I I don't know what it is about these books in particular, but they have just turned me off of this team. I because it was Laraz and Silva on House and Powers, right? On
Yeah.
Hoxpox.
Yep.
And it was dynamite every issue. But this just is different. And it's not, I do not like it.
The one that the page that I found the page or the art really kind of stuck out to me was the when Rachel and it looks like Jubilee and Hope are emerging from these pods, where Rachel's face just looks like a Photoshop job rather than drawn. And it just was like this feels rushed in a way, or like it had to come quickly.
That could be part of it.
Wasn't as detailed.
Like I know what settings to use in Photoshop to make an image look like a drawing. You know, like it wasn't impressive, and I know this team can do better. Is the thing.
I took that as stylistic. Like that was just a choice. But I see that.
There's one last point I wanted to make. I haven't seen anybody make this point. I haven't seen anybody talk about this. What Professor X describes here, and there was another character that mentioned it, maybe in the last issue. I don't remember exactly, but what he discusses with Omega Sentinel as far as how to keep mutants around, he says something to the effect of, I hope I can find the page, so I want the exact verbiage, but he says something, okay, here it is, yeah. You are about to crush mutants before concentrating on the humans. Spare us. All we need is an island. Build it fences. Let the mutants live, and to hell with humanity. That is the end of mutants in Powers of 10. There's a very small enclosure that the mutants exist in, and at the end it's just Wolverine and Moira, and they're visited by that guy who's a combination of human and mutant, or human and machine, or he's only machine, or whatever he is, and they're about to get sucked up by the larger Dominion. They're about to have that ending. Professor X is essentially asking for that.
Give us a little. Yeah, it was almost like an Attack on Titan situation. Give us a little island. Let us live there.
I don't know, but that idea seems like something Magneto would hate.
Yeah.
So
he's had it several times. It doesn't work.
I know.
Seems like something Professor Xavier would hate. This is insane. Pass.
Yeah, a hard pass.
Yeah, pass. Yikes.
Yeah, this is tough.
But guys,
yeah,
if we go to X-Men Forever #2, we'll understand what's going on. Don't even worry.
That's right. It said in the
Don't
note
even
to read
worry.
it.
funny. Roboters 100 says Xavier once again being used as a scapegoat and martyr, killing everything he ever stood for. Right. I completely agree with that.
Style Society says, how many times did Xavier die on Krakoa? Maybe this is the result of deterioration from the resurrection process. No, I think this is just the bastardization of that character.
And if that's the case, they haven't told us any of that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it's just lacking a lot of nuance. I feel like Immortal X-Men having character centric issues helped us get in the minds of these characters who are doing big things. And now that there is nothing like that, everybody's just acting and you don't really get to spend time in their motivations. Um I there was a comment left on a Bleeding Cool article about this particular issue and the overall state of X-Men comics. And I don't know if I've ever read a comment, certainly not on Bleeding Cool, that resonated with me as much as this one did.
and Sean, was this
So
for Forever or for Rise?
for Rise.
Rise.
So this person said, I often feel not quite stupid, but like I just don't get it reading the X books the last couple years. Yeah, there were moments under Hickman when I didn't quite know exactly what was going on, but I never felt completely lost. And I sometimes figured it was supposed to be a little vague. Within 6 months after him leaving, the books were getting immensely more complex. And they are now at the point where I think the only people who know what is happening are the writers. And it feels like they are a little clique speaking their own language, not revealing everything on the page, and challenging the readers to keep up and figure it out. But I just don't care anymore. I read the stories hoping at least a bit comes across as coherent. I get there are people out there not looking forward to what looks like a return to more familiar territory, but I need this return to basics as a palate cleanser at the very least. And maybe I won't need a notebook of definitions, clues, charts, and diagrams to hope to get a clue to what's going on.
Damn.
Yeah, 1000%. I can't believe I agree with a commenter in the Bleeding Cool comment section. That's insane.
I agree with every word.
Every word.
I don't necessarily agree with the click part. I'm sure the writers want this to be understood, but it does feel like they've had to compress all their beats into this ending.
Push it. Yeah.
I go ahead, Cale.
I just feel like Gillen's been around a long time.
Yeah.
He knows, you know, he knows what he's doing. He knows how to get complicated ideas across in even a pithy way.
It's just convoluted. It's just like endless nonsense. It's not even just like what is happening, it's the way it's explained. The dialogue doesn't help you. It like I feel like I get left behind with some of these books and I'm like, "Wait, they're resurrecting people. I thought they couldn't do that. They're talking about no place, white room, all these different places and it's like I can't even wrap my head around some of these concepts and no one here except for me understood what the white room was. And every single one of us reads these books every week. And it's not because of you guys.
I was prepared to come here and ask again and get shit for it. What is the White Room?
What are we doing there again?
Is it the room where the Phoenix regenerates? It's like a reality?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I got through with these books. I was like, okay, great. We've got X-Men Forever now. Rise comes first. X-Men Forever will explain it. I got through X-Men Forever and I went, so I know something is happening. Something is happening here. I don't know what it is.
Even the way you laid that out, the fact that we need another book to explain the first book is not a good thing.
Well, and I don't even hate that. Right? Like, because, there are some things that are like, okay, this is a little complicated. This will help. Cool. Is it gonna?
Don't.
All right. We just have to keep talking about the X-Men anyway, so we might as well talk about X-Men. Forever, number 2.
Oh, we'll be talking about X-Men Forever. Number 2.
Kieran Gillen, again, art by Luca Maresca, colors by Federico Blee, letters by Clayton Cowles. So this issue is sort of an explainer in a weird way for Rise 4. The very first panel tells you this issue happens concurrently with Rise of Powers of X, number 4. If you're gonna read that before reading this. And this fills in a lot of the holes I think from that one, this is how you can get a better idea of the fact that Professor X's strategy is to resurrect all the mutants and all the X-Men, um, and let them be a resistance group that, alongside the Phoenix, will be enough to turn the tide in this war against Orcus. And I can appreciate that. Like, I totally appreciate that Professor X has an ulterior motive, a different plan that he is executing, and that he needs people in positions to make that happen. I simply don't understand why he can't say that. That's the only like issue I have with that, is why these are his trusted allies. Why can he not tell them these things? And the other issue I have, and then I'll stop talking, is the fact that they fucking resurrected Mr. Sinister.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
What are we doing?
how? After everything that has happened, he is literally the reason they're in this position. Because if Sins of Sinister didn't happen, A, the books would be better, but B, these mutants would be in a much better situation. There is a Sinister Dominion because of him, and you bring him back.
And this is where I'm getting like a final season of Game of Thrones vibes from this, where it's like everyone's got to come back because we had to tie up that loose end. Like, let's bring Sinister back so we can finally have his arc. Let's throw in the whole Mystique Destiny thing with them being Nightcrawler's parents that we set up in an issue a year ago that has had no bearing on the fall of X outside of that. But we got to mention that again because that's a loose end. All of this just seems like cleanup duty for every storyline, and it is just a mess.
I also like that they kept up to that point with Mystique, and they have where Professor X is still going to deny them the like them being together, and there's still an angle that he has to play with Destiny, and they're still toying with them to just keep pushing that. That died, dude. She's out. Leave it alone.
There were some pieces of this that I did actually like. I enjoyed this issue more than I enjoyed Rise, for sure.
Yeah.
I think Exodus is a really great character. He's extremely funny, and Gillen nails. There were a few zingers here with Exodus that were really good. Like when when Rachel Summers walks in upset about what's going on, he's like, the Quiet Council in exile recognizes Rachel Summers.
That was good.
Dude, we're in the shits. There's no reason for you to keep this ceremony up, but he can't help himself.
And at one point where he's trying to glaze up Hope yet again, and she's like, not the fucking time. Not right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Hope is one of my favorite X-Men. She is just such a great character.
The fact that we never had a book about the Five is a problem with this whole Krakoan era. Like, there was so much story there that we never got. Like, those characters, all they do is stand in the background. They're a device. They're the ultimate nullifier. They're an Infinity Gauntlet. They're not characters.
Now.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was nice to see Hope in here. I think the art in this is much better than Rise.
I didn't know that I would become such a fan of Destiny. I really like Destiny, man.
Me too, dude. Yeah.
I just didn't love that the justification for resurrecting Mr. Sinister was Destiny saying, consider this. If we bring him back, you can perhaps kill him again down the line.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that sucked. That sucked.
Good foresight.
I couldn't blame her for that one though.
It's fair. I love Destiny too, Cale. It's become so much about her relationship with Mystique that all of the mystique around Destiny is gone. She was such a cool character because she held all the cards. And she knew and was manipulating things behind the scenes. Remember when she got involved? Really, she only got involved in a deep way in Inferno. And it was literally her arrival that turned everything upside down. And that was so exciting.
For all of us.
Yeah.
and things are still upside down.
Whoa.
Maybe she was the harbinger of doom. Maybe she saw this coming the whole time.
She probably did.
But it's like now all she really has to say is stuff about Mystique.
Yeah.
Jean, she's still comatose, and all she can say is now and forever, which, you know, is whatever. That's like her Zurin R, right?
Yeah.
But Zurin R like has a relevance, and this just feels like some shit to say.
I thought she was reciting the WWE intro, Sean.
I thought of that too.
As I'm flipping through this, like, I don't know if it's a Gillen thing, but like the whole idea with Professor X doing stuff without talking to the people we actually trust to explain it. Rachel does the same thing with Prodigy. She pushes him into the tree, traps him, and uses his powers and explains why she did it afterwards. It's just like
What the hell was that about?
Why can't these people just communicate correctly? Like,
No,
it sounds
what the
like a
hell
way-
was that about?
Because
I-
Prodigy can, I think he could. It's no, it's not language that he does. He's the best at. Prodigy's mutant power set is always
Prodigy. He can't. No, I'm thinking of someone else. I can't remember what Prodigy's power is.
I'm thinking he understands language. I'm like, no, that's Doug.
That's Cypher. Yeah.
Yeah. Marco's looking it up. I could tell.
He has the ability to know anything that people nearby know.
Okay.
The fuck.
But like,
Okay.
I don't know. Ask him to use his power instead of forcing him to it. Like,
Yeah, right. Like,
there's no communication with these characters at all, which it's
Huh?
so frustrating.
buy me dinner first, dude.
For me personally, well, I mean, look, ultimately, this is a story they're telling. I was very much looking forward to a united X-Men, you know, with the strength of Magneto returning and Apocalypse returning and the final hour versus the full brunt of Orcus. That's what I was really like excited about. And we're getting Professor Xavier's a bad guy. Apocalypse, you know, is I don't even know what he's doing. It just doesn't feel that like united in heroism right now. And I guess maybe that's where they're getting to. But like the Professor X angle of this whole thing rubs me the wrong way. Yeah, this was a much better issue. This is the rally the troops issue in terms of getting their ducks in a row for these people to make their grand return. And so I'm interested in what's going to happen next. My favorite moment of this issue, not necessarily because it's a good one, but because it underscores the insanity of this entire era of X-Men, is that on the very last page,
Yeah,
when
okay.
when Hope sees the Phoenix, and she's, you know, it's I think it's Jean speaking with her. She says it's scared. It's so scared. It's died before but never ended. It's fighting it. Can you help it? And Hope is cocking her fucking pistol and is like, like I'm gonna give it some help. Help is on the way.
It's
That's Cable's daughter.
It's like that fucking Saturday Night Live sketch, the What You Say sketch where they all just pull out guns and shoot each other.
So it's stupid, but that panel, that's a damn good looking panel.
Yes, absolutely. The Luca Maresca art is very good. But it's just like, what is happening? Like, this is
Shoot
so
it.
unserious.
The world's gone to shit, and we've all got guns.
I'm gonna pull on this one. I had fun.
No, pass.
Yeah, pass.
In a vacuum, maybe, but having had to read these back to back, I'm just not into it. It's a pass for me.
Valid. Uncaged. What's up, Uncaged? What's up to everybody? Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Really appreciate you being here with us. Make sure you hit the like button if you're having a good time so far. Either way, appreciate you being a part of this. Uncaged says, here's my issue. I am not buying this book because this got so silly and I'm supposed to read this one last thing and I decided I'm not doing it. And I'm glad I didn't give them $4 more. You know what? That is totally valid. I think that everybody, you guys know the problem that I have, right? And we're going to get into my problems a little bit later on in the stack segment.
Not enough comics.
They have a pill for it, Sean. Yeah, it's fine.
I don't think they make a pill for this one. But you know, I buy books that I'm not even enjoying. and I'm trying to get better. I think last year I'd probably still have the Flash on my stack. I don't anymore. I had to make that decision, but I can't do it with the X-Men. But I encourage you, if you are not having fun with these books, don't worry about the fear of missing out. You can listen to this show. We'll tell you what's happening. We'll keep you abreast until the next era. But if you're done with something, jump off. There is no shame in that. Save your money or give it to a book that you'll really love.
You heard it
Don't-
here first. Don't buy comics.
Don't think of us as like a thermometer where you can look at and we'll tell you what it's like, right? Like we'll tell you exactly how you'll feel about it. Think of us more like the wind chill. You're going to step outside and this is what you're going to feel. If you're into that, you're into that.
Okay.
Interesting.
All right. Justin said Sinister being on Crow in the first place was always a gripe of mine. I liked it because it's like, oh, all right, I see why they did this, but this could be bad later. And it shows you that, the willingness of these characters to do anything to get where they're trying to go. It was a mistake. But I think that, like, as a narrative device, Sinister has overstayed his welcome.
It was good tension. It was good
Yeah.
tension, and that I think, especially like on the Quiet Council, that was cool. An opposing force there.
And I think it was necessary because it needed to show that everyone is allowed in Krakoa.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and remember, early on we had the funny enough, the Sinister data pages, the sins of Sinister, the secrets of Sinister, the Sinister secrets. And those were fun.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because they were little puzzles and little riddles that we had to figure out what was going to happen and figure out what meant, what meant who and who meant what. And it was cool.
Couldn't agree more. Aaron Ruiz, don't buy comics. Sean and Atomic Count will support it until the end of days. Well, look, just us, unfortunately. We come close at our respective LCSs to holding it down, but the industry at large needs us all. All I'm trying to say is buy the comics that you enjoy, which I think is critical.
Blue Spaceman says, man, I come in and I find you complaining about the Enigma data page. At which point?
Welcome.
Are you live or are you way back then? Because
I'm sorry, man.
That's so funny.
Look, if it's any consolation, soon we won't have this era to talk about. There won't be any more data pages. And hey, maybe we'll miss it.
That's what you think.
Damn, remember that text exchange? Missed that.
Yeah. The aim chat with all the dominions.
If only I
Gail
had
Simone's favorite part.
We have to move on. We have to get out of X land. Let's talk about the Six Fingers number 3. I don't have a copy of this book, but thanks to the fine people at Image for providing us with review copies every week of Image Comics. So thank you to Image for that. This is written by Dan Waters with art by I'm sorry, are we on the no, we're on the right book. Yeah. Dan Waters with art by Sumit Kumar, colors by Lee Lowridge, letters by Aditya Bidikar. So this one is digging us a lot deeper actually. This feels like maybe it was as much of a revelatory issue as the third issue of The One Hand, just in terms of how much it gives us. We're learning that this our main character is I can't remember his name. Hopefully one of you guys knows what his name is. Johan. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. This dude is cooked. He is completely losing it. And it makes reading the book fun because you don't quite know what is real and what's not in terms of what's occurring. There was a really awesome scene for me and my sensibilities earlier when he's walking down the street and there's this gang of dudes and they have one of the robots and they've beaten it, and they're like running it down, and they toss its body into the street, and Johan comes upon the head, and he's like, the head is just still alive and saying, "Please, please." Um, that hit me really hard. It hit me really hard. One of the things that stories that involve robots do to me is whenever they're used as almost like an allegory for different people,
Yeah.
and how callously they're treated just because they're inorganic. That's so shit. So shit. You think about the way people treat animals. You think about the way that we
Yeah.
treat each other, the othering of people, and what it allows humans to justify in their mind. This scene really impacted me because of those things.
This literally makes me feel like shit because just before you started saying all that, I was about to ask Marco what it was like for him to witness that robot being exploded.
It's my uncle, bro. You can't be doing that to him.
I don't know if Marco's emotional chip was installed for this issue.
That's right. Yeah, the driver's not up to date.
Yeah. This was my favorite issue of the Six Fingers. Because I think I'm understanding what it is now.
And I think that's that. Well, I have a better sense of where it's going.
Yeah.
And why some of the things that have happened in both books are happening. So I appreciate the fact that that it's also turning to this degree of mystical, like and darkness. I thought it was gonna be sort of straight crime, straight stuff like that, and now there's added layers and added complexities. And this art dealer woman is cool too. The some of the additional cast that they might throw in, it's gonna be interesting to see how they play into the rest of the narrative.
I mean, the way this book was pitched was like a yin yang book, right? Like they were accompanying stories with their own individual narratives.
Yeah.
And I think this issue really cemented that because I think it's more than just a storytelling and a publishing gimmick. Like the characters are. The way I read this was like Sean's like, oh, I don't know what's real and what's not. I was reading this as everything was real. And what we're seeing is real. That the way my mind put this together is that Johans is almost. I'm still under the opinion that one of them is a robot, or whatever the robots are called in this, and I'm starting to think cogs.
Cogs, yeah.
I'm starting to think it's Johans in the situation, whereas almost like the human that is the detective in the one hand, versus the cog that is not just Johans but the killer. The killer will always persist even if it's not the same person, because it's almost like it's in my mind it's almost like the way a body has antibodies is almost for what these characters are for the city. Like they always need to exist and they're always complementing each other and always will, interact with each other no matter what. And I'm really enjoying it because even in like the whole yin yang, the idea is that even though they're complementary, there's always a piece of the other in each other, the dots in the yin yang, where there is some humanity that I think can be seen in Johans. He's having trouble struggling through it morally and memory wise. And I think there's also a bit of cog inside the detective. He's very cold. He has trouble with human interactions a bit, and I really like how they're complementing each other in that way. And I think this issue really kind of drove that home for me.
I like that. That's a good reading, and I think to that point of Johans being the cog, it would make sense that whatever this is, maybe is something that gets passed through, not like a virus, but then the other guy who was arrested, well, presumably, we don't know if he's like legit the dude, right? Like it's assumed that he's the previous killer.
It's
He is
assumed
the one that was arrested for
yeah,
that.
and I wouldn't
Right.
have been as cautious about it until they mentioned like, oh, cogs, you can't really distinguish them unless you go through like a really in-depth like a not a taxidermist, mortician really does a good
dissection
of them. You can't really
Autopsy.
tell. Like that line was like, oh, okay, all right. So that's why I think that all the killers could potentially be cogs in a way.
Well, they would have to be assuming that because then also the way that they travel through
Yep.
things, right? Like it opens up, it's all machinery. Maybe there's something there where they're like traveling through the mainframe or whatever.
Yeah, like the white blood cells of the city. Yeah.
Yeah. Cale looks unconvinced.
Just trying to think with along those lines, like if what's his name, Orwell, or
Odell
the other
West.
Odell, if he is the same thing, if he, if we're assuming that Johann is a cog, and we're assuming that the previous six-fingered killer was also a cog, and the book says that Odell is talking to Johann, and they have to go through, the people in the book have to go through this intense dissection of a cog's body to find out that the cog is real. Where was I going with that? Why is Odell a meat pile? How far do you have to go? Like, it was a total dissection.
No, but I don't think he just got arrested for it. Whether or not he was the one, I think could be in question. He got arrested and then suddenly the killing stopped. But I feel like in one of the other issues, it was explained that there was still something that didn't add up.
Yeah.
So Johann is revealed to be a killer here, and we saw him kill someone else in a prior issue, so he's a killer. And when he does these things, he is not in control of himself.
He's basically sleepwalking.
Right. So in a similar sense, Odell could have been under that same hypnosis or whatever, or control, where his physical body did do the killings, but he did not do the killing, if that makes sense.
Like his consciousness.
Right.
Hmm.
I really, first of all, we'll talk about the art. I thought the art was awesome. I thought from an art standpoint, this was a really phenomenal issue.
Yeah.
And it was gruesome and everything else. And I really liked the story, but something just isn't, I don't know, like maybe I don't know. Something isn't fully connecting with me with this book. I was over the moon about the one hand issue 3, but I don't know.
Oh, that is so funny, because I was gung-ho about issue 1 of the one hand, and now I'm gung-ho about the 6 fingers, and you're on the complete opposite page.
Flipping.
Sean, do you think it's because of the lack of a clear POV? Because our POV character doesn't really understand himself either. Whereas on the one hand, that's a more distinct. Like he understands what his mission is, and it's a little more straightforward. Because I think I'm fighting with it, like in the 6 fingers, or there's something I'm fighting with. It's that it's a little obtuse where I'm coming from as a reader.
Well, it shifts. The POV shifts in this book, and this in particular, and this one in particular.
Yeah, I
we
think that's
see
why
Johann
I like this
basically.
issue more. Yeah,
we see Johann shut down.
Yep.
When he first goes through the the I don't know, the in between, whatever you want to call it, and then it shifts to the art lady.
Right. I would not say that my problem is a lack of a POV character. It's more just that there's a lot of stuff that's happening and no level of explanation at all. and it's happening quickly. Like there's never a beat to stop and consider like what is happening, what does this mean, what is this? Like you go from one thing to the next. You know, Johan is talking to the art dealer, then he's in his apartment. Now he's a sentinel. Now he's lost control. He's a sleeper agent. He goes and murders this guy, completely rips his head off, which is not even physically possible. You know how long it would take to cut someone's head off?
You gotta have a good ass knife to do that clean of a cut.
Yeah, that was insane. But he does that, and now all of a sudden he can go. There's writing on the wall. He can see things. He can talk to Ari, who's on the other side of the wall. He can walk. He can go in between, like Cale said. Like there's now he walks outside. He sees the everything around him is in that hue. It's just all happening very quickly. None of it is being explained. I don't know what's going on, and it's kind of frustrating. But I really enjoyed the issue.
I think this is the stuff I like. This is the stuff like I want to be left hanging here.
Don't give it to me all right away. Like tease it out. Give me something to latch onto, and that's right now is the mystery. I don't yet have to understand how the pieces fit, and especially once what's his face, the detective arrives, and then they're across from each other talking between the wall. That was cool. Like we're getting somewhere.
Well, what did they say? What did you get out of that scene?
I mean, I for me it was excitement for what's going to come. Not so much as I there was something of depth there, because he's just saying I didn't kill them. The other guy's just like, okay, well then what are you doing? Like, who are you? It's more so they have the two opposing forces have met.
Yeah, I think I agree, Marco, and I think the reason why I like this issue more is that previous to the previous two issues, we were getting questions about things, but we were fast forwarding through it, the actual action of it, because we were in the POV of Johans. Now we are seeing it, but the question's still there. I just like that I'm able to see it now,
right?
So I can draw those questions myself rather than having to rely on the character's perspective and his questioning. Because now I'm like, oh, this whole city's a whole thing now. You know, the city's a living being in my mind. But yeah, no, I'm into this a lot. Is it 6 issues each? Is that what this is? A total of 12?
I think so.
Pretty cool.
Because this does feel like a halfway point.
Yeah.
Yeah, the art is excellent. The art is really really strong here. Sumit Kumar does a great job. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to work with. There's so many sequences in this issue. I mentioned earlier the scene with the road warriors fucking tossing that cog. And that was really well done overall. Like that whole page is nice. And then of course, you look at the cog and how he looks as he's pleading for his life. And, for me, Sumit was able to really evoke the emotion. And then the dissection of Odell, holy shit, that was crazy.
Very graphic.
Yeah, seeing just a torso by itself is gross.
I have a hard time appreciating art when I see it digitally. Especially the formatting here is like scroll, and I really don't like that. So I'm sure that I feel even better about the issue and the art if I was physically holding the comic, but I still feel really strongly about it. So,
Sean, with these, if you import them into like a comic book reader app, the review copies as PDF, it reads better because you can go side to side with it. Yeah, I would hate an infinite scroll too, especially with like double page spreads. It doesn't really help. Sumit Kumar though, great, great stuff.
Pick of the week for me.
Okay.
This had me excited to keep going.
Yes. Yeah. Same.
Close to mine.
Oh. Well, that makes sense. He's a classic,
Well, I'd expect that from you. You're nasty, Marco.
What?
What are you guys assuming about me? We got one more book to talk about.
Yeah, easy pull. Easy pull.
Yeah.
This has been a fun experience so far, even if I'm not, enjoying every single moment of the ride. Uncaged says another show said the premise is the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. But what does that mean?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what that was supposed to be.
Well, I think that's like the theme of the book. I think that's the gimmick, you know. So, we'll figure out what that means, but I think it's just that, you know, they don't know what the deal is with the other one.
You mean the two opposing forces, the detective and Johans?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Didn't do much for me.
I could
I
probably
don't
talk for another like 5 minutes about that because I'm gonna let the story play out.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna let the story play out. Let's talk about the listener pick of the week. You guys wanted it. You resisted the other
Came
books that we
through.
had. Yeah. And you wanted it, so we got it. Creature of the Black Lagoon Lives, #1 from Universal Monsters, Image Skybound. Dan Waters, another Dan Waters book. Also though, a Rom V book.
Hmm.
I think the breakdown was that Ram V and Dan worked together on the overall story and maybe beating it out into issues. But I believe that Dan did the actual scripting. I could be
Okay.
wrong about that, but I believe that's what I read when this was first announced. The art's by Matthew Roberts, colors are by Dave Stewart, and letters are by DC Hopkins. I have no familiarity with the Creature of the Black Lagoon film. I've never seen it. I don't know anything about about anything that involves this. But I think this issue gives you the essentials, what you need to know. At some other point, this woman that we follow as the main character, she was in a situation with, I assume, this Creature of the Black Lagoon where she was going to die and then she didn't. And now she is, chasing down leads and killers, and she's become some kind of I don't know, private eye or something like that. And she goes to find this thing. And she has an encounter.
So,
Go ahead, Tyler.
so I think it's actually different. I think she's chasing a serial killer who drowns people.
Right. Yeah.
The creature is irrelevant to her story.
Oh.
It just so happens that the place they're going to has the Creature of the Black Lagoon in it.
Okay.
Because the
I
serial
assumed
killer
she was a
drowned
character.
people.
Go ahead.
There's not much to the Creature for the Black Lagoon. This is literally what you think it is, Sean. Swamp monster that kills people. That's all there is to it. I think there's more like if you what's the Shape of Water, like that's a little bit of a more of a nuanced take on a a swamp creature. But yeah, you're right in the sense that like it's just a weird looking fish man.
This was my pick of the week.
Dude, same. Okay, cool. We're in the same boat. Pun intended.
What about it? I thought it was
Um,
bad.
I thought that they did an amazing job of selling me on this woman, and her fear, but also her desire, like her commitment. It read a little better in my mind when I was thinking that she had an interaction with this creature before. I thought she was like from the movie or something, but uh, despite that, I got the art did a lot of the heavy lifting for
Yeah.
me, first of all. Like this
Yep.
page where the panels are broken up by the water and all that, I thought that was really cool, and that's used throughout really effectively. And just some of the stuff that Waters put down here in the script. He describes the way that it's like to drown, to die by drowning, and that was really evocative. juxtaposed with the art, really evocative.
The bit that I liked was the back matter. Waters is talking about the idea of, you know, that we are constantly discovering things underwater. Up until, you know, March of 2024, they found new shrimp off the coast of the Pacific or something like that.
Mhm.
So that the fact that like this thing be under the water is unknown, and we have that with the idea of the creature of the Black Lagoon. It's this unknown entity, monster, but also the idea of like being drowned. The idea of what it feels like to be drowned is a mystery, because how do you explain it if you're dead? And he brings up that idea where like, oh, it's a warm feeling that rushes over you and it feels great at the beginning. But then our POV character, she's like, no, it doesn't feel good, because she herself was almost drowned. And it's just the unknown of that as well, the unknown of what it feels like to be underwater. It's just, I thought that was a really good way of like bookending this issue. And the idea of like the original Black Lagoon is set in like turn of the century Hollywood. I think they're shooting a movie. It's been a while since I've seen it, but they're shooting a movie. One of those like almost like like a Jungle Cruise situation where they're shooting a movie. The actress gets killed, and it's a mystery, and there's this monster. So this is set in modern day. Like the security camera is there, so this is more modern. And I like the main character. I think she's compelling. She's kind of it's a revenge story. She's hunting the serial killer who almost killed her. And I like that as I think it's a much more compelling thing than Spooky Monster, you know? I prefer this over the Dracula one, which was just a retelling. This feels like a whole new story.
Dracula was good, so good.
I didn't finish it, so it could have ended well. But yeah, I like this one a lot. This was my pick of the week.
I just kind of thought it was a little bit evocative for sure, and definitely well executed. I found it a bit, especially for a first issue, a little formulaic. You know, it's setting up the her mission, and she's got to hunt down this serial killer that you know hunted her, and we've seen that a lot. That's a thing. It's different that it's a woman who's a journalist and happens to look a lot like Gina Davis. And I tell you, that sold me a lot. It just didn't quite do enough to get me over the hump of being really excited about it.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think for me it was in the execution. There were just some things about this issue that took it over the top. The scene where, and again, just great art. The scene where she's watching as a bird almost kills a fish and it gets away, and she says, "Little fish, I'm jealous. I'm jealous of you. You know that? Something just tried to murder you and you got away. And your little fish brain is going to forget it immediately. It's not going to become the only thing you think about every day and night. It's not going to become impossible for you to allow anyone to touch your skin. It's not going to consume you." I just love that. I love the idea that, trauma, the way that trauma sits with you, and how it, in her case, she was almost murdered, and now she's both obsessed with the fact that she almost died and she can't escape the way that that makes her feel and the way that it affects her, but she's also drawn to this person who is a serial killer who does the thing that she was almost killed this way. So it's an interesting push and pull that I really am interested in seeing how that plays out. I almost don't even care as much about the creature of the Black Lagoon. Like, that doesn't need to be here at all.
It felt ancillary. He just shows up at the end. And you kind of just like, all right, well, now what is he going to do? Is he gonna? I'm also assuming this is not an intelligent creature. This is sort of bumbling and scary and not gonna join him sleuthing.
The only I agree, like there's really no clear distinction, like a connection as to why he even exists here, outside of maybe like it looks like they revere this creature. There's like it's a tourist spot for it. Maybe they view it as a god. Maybe the serial killer is making sacrifices to this thing he sees as a god by drowning people. I don't know. and I am curious to see how they tie that in.
I thought it was just kind of like local legend. That's why people come to this town. You know, it doesn't exist, but it exists.
I wonder if it's like a direct sequel to the movie too. Like that happened back in the 50s. It's a known quantity. Now it's a tourist town because of all these folklore stories. And now that folklore has become myth and legend. And there's, the old abuela just starts, worshiping this thing like it's a god. So could be some deeper lore there that's like that. That's interesting to me because it's a continuation of an actual story that you could just watch on a movie.
I will absolutely continue to read this. I think I loved the Universal Monsters Dracula, but it didn't compel me to read more than the first issue, even though I have them all. This, I can't wait for the next one to drop.
Are we getting any other monsters? Frankenstein?
I'm not here to say I did.
So you guys are pulling it.
Yeah. Easy
Yeah.
pull.
Yeah. Cool.
Do you care about the next one?
Yep.
I'll read it.
Especially if she still looks like Gina Davis.
Who is this Gina Davis?
God, you're so young.
Dog.
Logan. Jesus Christ.
Oh,
Go watch Beetlejuice.
you gotta
please.
watch Thelma and Louise.
Or that. I was curious. I'm like, what other monsters were they doing? And I forgot they're doing Frankenstein with Michael Walsh doing both art and writing. And that is intriguing.
Michael Walsh does the Silver Coin, is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The mom of Stuart Little?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what you got? You're...
What? Oh my god, man, that's so funny. So, look, I'm gonna be fully transparent. I did not have a good day yesterday. All right. If you're listening to this in the future, yeah, I appreciate your concern, Marco. Yesterday is Wednesday, comic book day. All right. I did not have a good day. I went to Midtown. I went to my local comic shop. Very full of anxiety, right? And I really, 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 really did not want to like interact with other people. I didn't even want to see other people. So being in a comic book shop, especially this one on a Wednesday, when you don't want to see others is crazy. And then being on the train and everything else. So the only thing I wanted out of my life yesterday while I was at my shop was to leave. And I just couldn't wrap my head around the fact that I needed to be conscientious about making sure that I got all my books. And there were people standing around, these motherfuckers, these people that go to comic book shops and read whole ass comics in the aisle. In the aisle. I'm trying to get to my books and I just can't. And I don't really have a problem telling people like move, but this just was a day where I didn't want to engage. I almost left the store without some very, very critical books. I mean, I left the store without the most critical book. I left without the Six Fingers, which we needed for the show. But I almost left the shop without other very critical books, like several. I just wasn't all there. And while I was going through the books that I bought this week, I noticed, wait, oh shit, I don't have the Six Fingers. What happened here? So that is my sad tale of woe from my trip to Midtown. I didn't save any money because I got to buy the books anyway. I got to buy it next week anyway.
Doesn't matter.
Did you manage to get Ultimate Black Panther #3?
I can't answer that.
Damn it.
You've been doing this a lot lately.
Good try.
I know.
What's going on with you, man?
Who knows? Who knows? It's sad. It's sad. I genuinely, truthfully, it's not for show. I get really bummed when I don't buy all the books I intended to buy in a given week. I hate it because I don't like going to the shop the next week to try to get it and then not getting it. Have
Yeah.
FOMO. I read Six Fingers. I already read it. I read it for free. But the fact that I don't have it bothers me.
Well, and it messed with your experience.
It legitimately did, yeah. It might have been my pick of the week if I had a physical.
And one thing too about those review copies, little inside baseball, the quality ain't that great.
Yeah.
If you ask me, just in general, a comic art on a screen doesn't look as good on a screen as opposed to physical. But that's just how I feel. That's just how I engage with books. I can't imagine me reading a book digitally and saying it's my pick of the week. But that being said, hopefully next week will be better for me. And I do have to apologize because all of you people who love this Slack segment and are about to tell us what your number is, it's all thrown this week. I'm not joking. It's thrown.
Huh.
So I'm telling you in advance. I'm not going to give you any more clue than that, but it's thrown.
Okay. Okay.
I'm gonna go. I have an answer here. My original pick before all this, looking at the list, was 16. But I think Sean's had an unlucky week. So with that, I'm going with 13.
Wow,
James Jones said
Jones.
13 as well.
Man, we got a little mind meld going on, James.
I'm gonna do 9.
In my head, Marco, when you say 9, you're essentially saying 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to say 12. 12, 13 feels right to me. I'm going to stick with 12, but
Wow. Really low numbers. Dan says 8. Rami says 9. Where are the numbers at? Let's see them in the chat.
If you didn't get the Six Fingers, does that count towards the count, or it's only the books that you actually bought?
Only books I bought, yeah.
Okay.
And of course, as always, the winner of the game here, the person who gets the closest to the final count without going over, I will give you any of the codes for the Marvel books we didn't read on the show today, except Ultimate Spider-Man. I can actually give you that code as well. So if you want Ultimate Spider-Man or any of the other Marvel books that are in my stack that I didn't read or that we didn't read for the show, you can have the code. Hopefully you understand what I meant by that.
yeah, we've got some low numbers. We got James Jones for 13. Dan's got 8. Rami's got 9. Cole has 10. Hound has 10. Aaron Ruiz has 10.
I shouldn't have said anything. I over-influenced you guys.
Should have waited,
I shouldn't have said anything. Wow. All right. If you guys are sure.
No
They're
takesy
not.
backsies. These are locked in.
Yeah. Justin says 11.
So that's 6 books. 6 extra books.
Yeah,
I
Dan.
don't know, man.
Dan, you can definitely still reach out to me for that, bud. All right. I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call it now, and I'm gonna get to the count. So the 4 books that I got for the show, and then we have you guys.
We all messed up.
Batman Dark Age #2.
You did pick
that's
that
right,
up.
that's right.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
definitely did. I definitely did.
Interesting.
Ultimate Black Panther #3.
There it is.
And you got the good variant too.
Yeah, I had to.
Joshua Cassara. Yeah.
Had enough presence of mind.
Yeah, somehow. Miles Morales #19,
Oh, no, I'm wrong.
Oh.
which was also a book I missed last week that I made right this week because that came out last week.
Yeah. I think I told you about that last week because I thought you were
Yep.
picking it
Yeah,
up.
that's
I didn't
right.
factor that
Yeah.
in this week.
Yep.
Damn.
Monstrous 51.
Bro.
That's
do you
a
mean,
furry
bro?
book now?
That's crazy that it's at 51 and that it's in your hand and you dropped it at like 25.
That is true. Yeah.
That's
Well,
a
he
good
didn't
ass
drop
book,
it.
though. That's
He did it. That's actually true. That's actually more true.
I literally didn't drop it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I stopped reading it.
Do you guys ever do that as a book club or like as a weekly review? Back when you were doing image reviews?
No,
No.
That's a
It came
good pick
out.
for one. That's a
No,
good
it didn't come
book.
out when we were. Yeah, it had already been started.
Okay.
We didn't review any. The only image book from that era that we reviewed is Saga, and only in the relaunch, I think.
And that was right as you came on board. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Red Sonja, number 10.
Makes sense.
Oh, this is a high number.
I broke my streak too. I was buying the actual woman covers, the cosplay covers.
All right.
The horn dog
Right.
cover. Yeah.
Oh wait, was it the cosplay covers? I got a different cover, but I really like the art on this one.
Oh, you're all over the
He's
place.
making those covers glossy.
Kill, if only you knew. Wolverine number 48.
Wonderful. Brother, do you need to talk after the show?
I might. Blade number 10. This is the last issue, actually.
Oh, there it is.
Yep.
That's kind of a bummer. I'm not reading it, so
Yeah.
I'm part of the problem.
It's been good. It just feels unnecessary. Feels like they need a Blade book out because there was supposed to be a Blade movie out, but that's not out. But they still put the book out. Gods number 7. Rare Flavors number 5.
Uh-huh.
That's been real good on that.
Detective Comics number 1084.
We're soaring above all the guesses.
Oh yeah. Duke number 5. Something is Killing the Children number 36.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. World Tree number 9.
That book's still happening?
Sure.
What's happening in it, Sean?
Don't know.
Couldn't tell you.
No, I mean I can tell you what was happening in issue 5. Actually, issue 4. That was as far as I got.
That's 17.
That's it.
Wow.
Damn.
Can I ask a question, Sean?
Yeah.
Or are you done with the sack? I don't want to interrupt the.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Okay.
it. 17.
17. Man, I was closer, but then I think you psyched me out.
What's
Maybe
the
it's-
question?
Yeah, you did say you
Oh,
had
yeah,
a
that's
question,
right.
Tyler. So it wasn't a question.
No, so my question is, like, if you want to go back and read these issues, is there an organization that you can do that easily?
An organization.
Oh,
Are your
that's a no.
books organized in a way? Yeah, right.
I mean, I've seen
that
a stack,
answers
and I don't
itself,
think
really.
there is.
Okay.
It's like guy organization where it's like, I know where my stuff is on my bookshelf. There's no organization, but I know where it is. Is that kind of how the floppies are for you?
All right. So,
Uh-oh.
oh god. All right. So you guys have been to my house and you've seen my
Nope.
stack. Cale hasn't. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Maybe I should send you a picture of it.
I have.
But it is wild. But I understand what's happening in it. Or at least I did. It got fucked up. It got very
Oh,
unruly.
no.
And I have a knowledge. I'll say this. I have a knowledge of the stacks that represent books that I have already read. And I have a knowledge of the stacks that are books that I haven't read. Literally today, I chose to take some time to better organize this. So I took all the stacks of comics, and it is gargantuan. It is insane. I
Mhm.
took them all and I broke them down by Marvel, DC, and other. Okay? I did that, which I've had to do this many times. Many times. It gets messed up. But I did it again, and my pledge, because I have to improve, and you guys are a part of this process. You truly are, because I don't feel good today about my stack number. Not because it's too high, although it is, but because not only is it too high, but that's not as high as it could have been. I have to get control of this. And it starts from me being able to actually read the books that I'm buying. And the only way I can do that is by getting better organized. So every week, I'm going to do something to better organize my books. Next week, I'm going to focus on getting the Marvel books organized by title. That's my goal.
How
Oh, that
I've been
sounds like
getting
so
through my
much fun.
backlog lately is I'm picking a book and I'm reading every issue that I have.
Yes.
And like I'm up to date on Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, Daredevil. Like there was time where I was like 6 issues behind on Daredevil. I've only read like the first one of this run. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna read Daredevil. Now I'm up to date. Now a new one came out and I can read that now.
I'm not even done with Chip's run.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't change.
It's still there too. You can read it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I feel like that's been much more manageable. And it's also been manageable to the point where I'm like, all right, I read a chunk of these things. I didn't like it. I'm not reading that anymore.
And
Because
therefore, you wouldn't have
it's,
to buy it anymore.
yeah, and it's like a known quantity now. It's like, I know I don't want to read it now. It used to be like, oh, you would buy the book because you needed to fill in a number and you're used to buying that book. If I'm reading it, then I can know I'm not liking it
Yeah.
rather than me just collecting it.
I heard every single word you said, Tyler. I'm just distraught over the fucking Red Sonja cover that I got versus the
Oh.
ones that I could have gotten. I'm so bummed out.
I'm surprised you didn't
Look,
get Dawn Runner.
I did. Oh, that's right. Oh my god, the actual number's 18 because I totally did read Dawn Runner today, and I guess I threw it in the red pile.
Oh,
You've
okay.
been
'Cause
cheating us around.
You
So I
got to a
did
book
read-
that
I-
wasn't for the show, which is
Yeah.
outside of your norm. You see, you're getting there. You're reading more.
I'm trying, dude. I read so many comics today. Over the last couple of days, I've read so many comics. I'm caught up on a lot of shit. I didn't buy Spider-Man this week, and it wasn't on purpose. I'm bummed.
Oh yeah, okay. That's was one I thought you had bought. Okay.
Yep. Yep. Terrible look for me. Let's see. Rami said, and that was your bad day. It was my bad mental day. Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
you should go. Maybe you should find a quieter shop. You know,
What is your
But
commute
where?
as well, Sean, to the shop in terms of time investment?
25-ish minutes straight down on the A.
Yeah, it's not bad. And but realistically, that's like the closest one.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it's the closest shop.
Yeah.
You're doing an
Union
hour
Square's
investment.
not that much further.
But FP, like, they I feel like
Well-
they miss more books.
Or even, I mean, what about your place, Marco?
Oh damn, he's
Or
not there anymore, man.
Saint Saint
Oh,
Mark's.
that's
Saint-
too far.
St. Mark's,
You're
St.
getting
Mark's
way
is
too far
in,
now.
is in Brooklyn now.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow, I don't live there. How would I know?
I didn't say anything about that. I didn't judge you. I'm just informing you.
Hey,
letting you
I
know.
don't live there.
I
Back
know you
off.
don't. I'm letting you know.
Back off. Damn.
God, all up in my. Oop.
Whoa.
Oh.
She threatened me with a good time.
That was nuts. Aaron Ruiz says, Duke, you bought Duke? Yes, of course. I buy Duke. I like Duke. It's fun. And I like Joshua Williamson. Good
I
guy.
caught up to
You read
Cobra
Duke?
Commander. It's a good book. That's a fun book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, I caught up with Nightwing. I was so many issues behind.
Oh, that's a big one for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sean, since you've been reading, is there anything you liked or anything that you didn't like?
You know what? Yes, I will answer that, Tyler. There were a lot of things that I liked. Beneath
okay,
the
that's not
Trees.
where I thought you were gonna go.
Yeah, dude.
No, I had a very pleasurable reading experience largely. Beneath the Trees, I caught up with that. That's been whew, what a great
Excellent.
comic. Yeah,
Excellent.
that's a really great series. Let's see, what else did I catch up with? I caught up with Blade. Blade's been really good. Green Lantern.
Okay.
Everybody's been talking about Green Lantern since it started. Jeremy Adams and Zermanico on Green Lantern.
War
I
Journey?
caught up with that. No. That's the John.
There's
That's the John
3 right
Stewart.
now.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, this is the one by Jeremy Adams and Zermanico.
Okay.
And
Hal Jordan book.
Gotcha.
the Hal Jordan. It is so good. So good. It's the best Jeremy Adams I've read so far. I think people have question marks about him because of the 1 Minute War.
Yeah. Yeah, we sure did. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Man,
if
that
you
was such a
like
good
Green Lantern,
concept.
it was. Just the execution wasn't there. This is definitely the good Jeremy Adams.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, so I caught up with that. And what else did I catch up with? There were a couple of there were a few other books. I can't remember. Oh, The Sacrificers. I was 2 issues behind on that. That shit is Rick Remender's. That is like it could end up being his best book.
Dang.
And he just put out that appetizer sampler book that he's coming out with.
Yeah.
And I saw The Sacrificers is on the cover. I'm like, I got to read that. I'm way out of date on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, The Sacrificers is awesome. Comics are so great. They really are.
Yeah, you're right. I'm looking, Sean. There's no good shops that are like as quick of a shop.
They can't. No, there aren't.
for
Nothing.
you. Yeah.
Unless he gets them mailed or some shit.
Which I thought about, but then I run the risk of them not getting here in time to read
Yeah,
them.
you can't risk that.
Yeah.
It's too
Yeah,
big of a
yeah.
gamble.
Yeah.
Comics are amazing.
Yeah.
People talk a lot about how like, oh, comics are in trouble and comics are so bad now. Blah 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 blah. No.
Those people aren't reading comics.
Yeah. I don't know what books you're reading, dude. I don't know. Maybe you're like me and you've got a stack piled this high and you're just years behind. But no, comics are fine. Comics are great. There are tremendous creators working in this industry right now, and it's secured from a
And
quality standpoint.
And even if comics died tomorrow, like people still be making comics.
Yeah.
Comics fucking rule, man.
They don't go away.
Yeah, come on. Let's be serious. Let's be serious, please.
Let's keep it 100.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be easy to come on here and say, like, I could talk about the books that I didn't like, and we could just shit on them, right? And we could do doom and gloom, but nah, man. We're here for a reason. Comics are great.
Yeah.
Anybody want to quickly update on what they're reading? Tyler?
I was gonna read Dick Tracy #1. That came out this week. I haven't gotten to it though, but I have it downloaded. That's from that new comic publisher that I haven't read anything from. Shoot. Mad Cave.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh
Mad
yeah,
Cave.
yeah.
I think it's Alex
Cave's some
Segura
good stuff.
writing it, if I'm remembering correctly.
The other book I really love that I caught up with is Miss Marvel, the mini by
With,
Iman Vellani.
Yeah. How was that?
Mm-hmm.
So the first mini was awesome. Like it ended great. I thought it was a great little Miss Marvel story. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. And I was surprised by the understanding of like where that character is in the comics. So I really appreciated that. The second mini is completely unnecessary. It feels like it was done because, hey, Iman Vellani's willing to do comics. Let's just make her do more without anything really like to say. Whereas the first one I thought had something to say. So
At least the first one was good.
I think if she doesn't want to go into, acting, or they don't, acting in real movies, she at least have it as a career to fall back on.
yeah, I actually had that same thought when I got through the first volume. I was like, wow, okay. And of course, we don't know where the credit goes to her versus her co-writer, whose name escapes me at the moment. But certainly there was nothing embarrassing about it. It wasn't was that crazy Nepo baby comic, the Spider-Man one?
J.J.
Oh,
Abrams
yeah.
kid, yeah.
Which never finished, I don't think.
No, it did, but nobody cared about it.
The biggest bag Sarah Pacelli has ever gotten.
Yeah.
And it was for, I'll just be gracious and say a forgettable book where she did incredible work all throughout the rest of her career and probably never saw that much money compared to that series. I would love to hear you guys, the listeners, what are you catching up with before we get out of here? Let's give it a few minutes. What are you guys reading right now? Silhouette says Green Lantern War Journal is also amazing. Yes, I am a couple of issues behind on that, and I'm ready to catch up with that. It's at the top of my stack.
Ooh, Mendel Green says Spectrograph.
Spectrograph.
That's from Distillery.
Oh, Tinian.
I forgot to get that. Fuck.
Well, that would have brought your receipt up another $10.
Yeah, well, sure would have. Probably do yourself a favor. You
probably
did your
could,
wallet
right?
a favor. Man, Jamie McKelvey's book is it's his first creator-owned book is coming out through that. And I am bummed that it's Distillery, but you know what? I'll go pick it up.
Is he writing,
Yo.
drawing it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll be something to check out.
The cover A is $20.
Excuse me.
For
For the
McKelvey's book?
physical. No, for Spectrograph.
Oh,
Yeah. $20 physical. Like, are you saying like in shops or where?
Is
It
this the
says,
reseller
add
market
to
they
cart,
made?
20. I don't know, man. It just says add to cart, physical here, ships with certificate of authenticity. Digital
Oh.
version is $9.
It's,
Okay,
it's
all
$9.
right.
Yeah, you're seeing some kind of other version.
I was about to say, dude, have you guys noticed? Like, we don't do distillery reviews.
We can't get the books.
Yeah,
You can't get 'em
they're
digitally.
$10, and we can't digitally get them. Well, it's
how
hard.
could we do them?
They're too big. I got other shit to read. I'm sorry.
The Trad Moore variant, cover D, $50 physical. Holy
Cool.
shit.
Cool model you got there. Let's see. We've got James Jones says Conan from Titan is stellar. Maybe the third time
That's-
I've ever heard anything from Titan being any good.
That's still Jim Zub, I think, right? Isn't he like continuing
is,
his
yeah.
stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. People love it. I
Yeah.
gave it a try. I couldn't get into it. It's not my thing, but I'm really glad that people enjoy it, and it's been a big success. Congrats to Jim Zub, one of the best in comics, one of the good ones.
Stalwarts, yeah, one of the forgotten sort of foundational, like hardworking people in comics for sure.
Very good Twitter follow too. He's very informational on there and very clear, and explains what's happening.
Man, on vacation, I decided to read my, I'm like, oh, I have some indie books I can read. That should be enjoyable. Had this one, what is it? Band-Aid Dessiné?
I've heard of that.
Bond Dessiné, yeah.
Bond Dessiné. The Thud. That is weird. Some German book. Like, I don't. It was. I read them and I read them begrudgingly. I'm like, I could have made more space on my Kindle for something else.
Kilo says Gods is my fave, and TMNT 150 was emotional. We should be getting into the new era after this.
Yep.
I know Jason Aaron's doing plenty of podcasts for it. So,
Is he?
what is Sophie
there's,
Campbell's last Ninja Turtle?
There's
shit?
a lot of news about that. Aaron Ruiz says Chainsaw Man. I'm on volume 5 for American Comics. I'm gonna start Brad Meltzer's Justice League.
Hell yeah.
That is. So you're going from Chainsaw Man to Identity
Justice
Crisis? Not that
a
that's a
hard
bad
pivot.
thing. It's just very varied, very different thing.
Hell
I
yeah.
mess with that. That's cool. Atomic Hound says made it home from the LCS. Miss Hound says hi. Well, what's the pull list looking like? What's the stack?
What's
Word.
Mrs. Hound reading?
Yeah,
Come
what's
on.
on her stack?
Oh yeah, I would love to know what she's pulling at the shop.
Rami says Transformers and rereading Hush.
Interesting.
We never did a Hush book club, did we?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
be curious to know how that holds up.
I do know it looks damn good.
Hush is fun.
Lee,
Yeah.
my man Jim Lee. Is Jim Lee? Jim Lee might be like my overall favorite artist.
Can I give a hot take real quick?
Here it comes. All right,
Is it
I'm gonna
is
read-
it gonna be the same one I've got?
oh my fucking god!
Modern Jim Lee, it's fine.
He said he likes
I
him on
think-
Spawn.
We're talking modern. Okay, fine.
Yeah, like those new covers he came out with for like Amalgam and the DC versus Marvel, like they were fine. There's something just very round about his faces that he does now. The proportional work is a little wonky for me now. But like Hush and X-Men are like top tier Lee for me.
Hush is good. Hush is real fun.
I don't know, and I think I verge on this problem with Mora, but definitely with like Samper and um the other guys like Samper. Who am I thinking of? Clayman. Um they just kind of start to look the same. The stuff kind of starts to look the same, and then the backgrounds are like like they're well done. You know, I'm not nuts enough to not give it that, but they're just like the same. They're very generic.
It's foundational superhero comics, but other people more recently have done crazier stuff. Like I think of like Treadmore, the aforementioned Treadmore, does wild shit.
Yeah, he's cool.
It's a whole different discussion, though.
I'm not here for the Jim Lee disparagement. I'm just not. Mendel Green says Jim Lee's Nightwing 113 was mid. I mean, hey, I'm of the feeling that the older creators in comics, the guys, you know, the men and women who have been doing this, you know, for 40 plus years, I am always of the mind that they deserve a lot of grace. And so
Sure.
I don't really always love critiquing their modern work just because it's like, all right, yeah, but do we judge them by that or do we judge them by what they were doing when they were really killing it? It's the same way I feel about Bendis. I don't judge Bendis's current work. I don't really even want to review it on the show because it doesn't bring me any joy to talk negatively about his books. When I think about Bendis, I think about a very specific time,
Yeah.
a 10-year reign.
Yep.
That's what I think about.
But then in that case, do you think it's what time for him to retire? Like,
No, get as much money as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Every single one of them deserves it. And I buy them. I'll never stop buying Bendis books. We might not talk about them, but Bendis is a major reason why I'm here right now.
well, Bendis month, please, because I have no context for what you guys ever like about him. The only thing I've ever read, genuinely, is Powers, and that's so much fun.
Oh, Powers is good, but it doesn't come anywhere near Avengers and Ultimate Spider-Man.
That's wild to me.
Yo, New Avengers is fucking insane.
Yeah, like
Yo,
the
Raph
stuff
breakout. Ugh.
the stuff that Bendis was doing on Powers, like he was getting to do in Avengers. Like he had the dream job, and then he decided he wanted to pivot and do Powers.
Oh, I thought when he was like young in his career, no?
That may have been when he started it,
Yeah.
but like by the time he was able to get it where he wanted it to be, it's just like, why? Like, dude, why are you bothering?
Right.
It didn't need to be done. That was passion.
Like, and not that it, you know, he had the story, it was worth being told. Just it's just like, my man, you have it. Put it in a real book, you know?
Yeah.
Not that Powers is in the real book, just
From a financial standpoint, Bendis didn't have to have Powers. He didn't need to sit there and do that book.
Yeah.
Especially not at that time. But I think, you know, Bendis set and we're like on a whole other tangent now. But Bendis set the table, I think, for people to be able to transition between, you know, the indie scene and the top of the top Marvel scene and then back and forth. He was able to do that his entire career up until, you know, the DC stuff. So definitely an architect of the modern era.
They did it so he and that group did it so well that it sort of seems like they broke the system and nobody else can do it.
What it also sounds like is that once we eventually do, you know, Bendis month like we're doing for Tom King currently, Marco's top 5 is going to be very short.
Right. He's going to have to do issue by issue.
Yo, which arc?
Yeah. All right, let's read some more comments before we get out of here.
Dan
Tom
says,
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just related to that conversation, Dan says he ranks Powers over most of Bendis's other work.
Oh, there we go. Let's go, Dan.
Neil deGrasse Tyson over.
Oh, Mrs. Hound, sorry. Rook Exodus is a big fan of Rook Exodus. There you go.
He said she read Last Ronin. That was the last thing Atomic Count can recall her reading.
Oh, fucking hell.
Silhouette says Bendis on Ultimate Batman. Dude, there is a point in time where I definitely would have loved to see that. And
Yeah.
if Bendis can summon the powers of 20 years ago, then by all means.
His Walmart Batman was the best thing he did at DC. And barely anyone tried
See,
it.
and I know it's the title of the book, but the fact that you have to call it Walmart Batman, it's like
It's funny
it's
because yeah,
it's like no, we've got Batman at home.
I know. And then like Tom King's Walmart Superman is some of his best work as well. And it was just hidden and it was inaccessible and it's such good shit.
Hey, for those of you who are still rocking with us, first of all, thank you. We're about to close, but would you be interested in a Bendis month? Or do we have people who grew up on Bendis or love Bendis the way that some of us here do? Because I have been wanting to talk about Bendis. We don't talk about Bendis enough. I wish we had this podcast when he was at the height of his powers, so I could come on here every month and talk about what a god he was.
We would have been at the height of our power,
right? The Crazy Amazing J-Man says rereading Spider-Man, X-Men, Acts of Vengeance crossover and just read the new Dick Tracy. How was that? How was the new Dick Tracy? Tilo, Masterpiece by Bendis currently is pretty fun.
All right.
I gave up after the first one. Reading, that is.
Dan says, I think you judge creators by their high points.
I believe that if they've had enough of them. Because, you know, a lot of creators can do the one really great story.
Yeah.
Or even a couple. But I think to reach the highs that the likes of like Jim Lee, which is who he was referencing, Jim Lee, Bendis, you know, some people think Jeff Johns lost it. So I don't, but you can, you know, all those people have done this at the highest level for years at a time, not one or two books. Frank Miller, throw in there.
John Byrne, I saw recently his name in the Discord. Where, funny enough, this conversation has sort of come up in the Discord as well. Byrne, is a name that has sort of been floating around in that same aspect.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Please, I was going to say we've got a couple of people. It looks like are
Excited.
into a Bendis idea.
Yeah, everybody responding with yes. Air Harlem says, I'm down for Bendis month. I missed a good Bendis. What's up, Air Harlem? Are you actually from Harlem? Because if you are, that's pretty cool. I haven't seen your name in the chat before, so welcome. And I missed. Oh, you missed the good Bendis. You missed out. Goodness, dude. If we do a Bendis month, Tyler, Cale, me, we're gonna have to really like lay it the fuck down.
Figure out, we're gonna figure out what to pick.
It's hard too because a lot of it's an epic.
Yeah,
right.
You know, like his Avengers epic.
Tough.
Yeah,
dude. Even Scarlet. I don't know if you guys were on that, but I was obsessed with Scarlet. That was one of the first like non-superhero books I read. I love Scarlet by Bendis and Malieve.
Cover. I never got to read Cover. I have Cover, and that's like the one where like it's a spy book, but they're comic artists.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and he actually has some artists in the book as like spies as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Bendis is the man, dude.
It seems like there's a need for a Bendis month eventually, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got a lot of months coming for different things like that, characters and stuff. It's gonna be fun. Pearl, yeah, I haven't read Pearl.
Good movie.
Oh, wasn't that also Alex Maleev?
It's a lot of Bendis Maleev stuff.
Yeah, they've collaborated a lot, so it probably was.
Daredevil as well.
Yeah, they're best buds creatively. Dan says, have you guys read Jinx, Torso, Fortune, and Glory? I forgot he's an artist too. I have not. But
think
that
I've
is a
read
little
Jinx. I've definitely read
Jinx not
Torso.
too.
I did a paper on Torso actually.
Gale fact number 54.
There you go.
Yo, if Kendrick responds to Drake, I need Sean to react to it.
Dude, I wish we had the kind of channel where we could do that, because I could literally talk about that for hours.
Listen, what are we doing here? You get up here and you talk about wrestling. Nobody knows what you're talking about. Get up here talking about Kendrick and Drake. Nobody knows what you're talking about. Go for it.
Lay out the beef.
I just don't think we have the audience for that.
I don't think that's true. You just got asked. You know, if one person asks, that means 1,000 people are thinking.
But that's because Silhouette and I are on a similar wavelength. I think that's what's going on.
Cole says, yo, hip hop pals.
Oh man, you guys are funny. We'll see. We'll see.
I only know white dude hip hop.
Well, I don't even know that. So
What do you mean,
Eminem.
like MGK, like
MGK.
Yellow Wolf?
Yellow Wolf. Oh. No, I mean, more like the
were they in
stereotypical
Eurovision?
college white dude. It's like, oh yeah, I love Odd Future. You know,
Oh, okay, yeah.
I miss the old Kanye. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yo, look at his face.
Dan said nobody knows equals Cale doesn't know.
Aaron Ruiz says, look, all I know is Drake versus everybody. That's right. Drake is Thanos, and everybody else are the Avengers. He's Dranos. And the time has come. He's going to be taken down potentially. It is very exciting. That is a whole other very exciting thing that is happening in the world.
Should that be a palling around?
Somebody has to do an AI verse with Millie Bobby Brown's voice instead.
Uh-oh. Now that I know about. I don't know much, but I know about that, and I do not approve. So he needs to teach that young lady something.
If only the algorithm wasn't such that if I put that video out, if we did that as a separate thing, it just wouldn't do what we need these videos to do. It's you know. And even if it did, the weird thing about YouTube is that even if it did, that would still not help us. Like, if a lot of people loved it, then they would be mad that we don't do that all the time, and then that would be bad for us. It's YouTube is weird.
Okay,
Literally,
So
white people make
what Patreon tier do we need for this? I'm telling you, Sean.
people want it. The people want it.
If you guys are serious, we could do it as a palling around. We could definitely we can do that.
You got a newsletter too, Sean.
That's it.
If you need
I'm
your
here to
outlet.
read about the beef.
It's not something that I would want to write about. It's something I want to talk about.
The three of us have all done videos for our newsletter. There's no reason you couldn't do it.
That's true. That is true. All right. I'll think about it. I'll see if I can find a way to make that appropriate for what we do here. Oh man, I've had such a blast. I needed this tonight. Thank you guys. I appreciate you all. You three that are here, but also, of course, the listeners. You guys are amazing. You guys have been so supportive of what we've been doing lately, running our numbers up. We notice it all. We notice all the comments and everything else. Really appreciate y'all. The next time we will be live with you is this Saturday at 10:15 a.m. Eastern. We're going to be joined by BJ Kicks of the Comics Are Dope YouTube channel. We're going to talk about, comics, the comics industry, his thoughts on it. But we're going to have some juicy topics, too, to dive into. It's going to be a show, but we're going to have someone hanging out with us and rolling with us as a panelist.
Are we going to talk about the news that just broke that Wesley Snipes is coming back?
What?
Yeah, apparently. He might be coming back for Blade.
What do you mean? Coming back like to be Blade?
Yeah, in the multiverse saga. That's something I just saw all over my Twitter feed. So,
Dude. Yo, yes. If Wesley Snipes doesn't make it into Deadpool or
Cameo.
Secret Wars. Wait, that would be some old bullshit because there is exactly one. There is exactly one black superhero from the before times that people give a shit about, and that's Blade. And I'm talking about the films. Storm doesn't count because Halle Berry wasn't given shit to do with, and that character was an afterthought. Blade is the only one. So we need some respect for Blade.
Michael Jai White as Spawn Erasure right here. Y'all made me watch that movie too.
I deeply love that movie, but it has no cultural cachet.
Tell that to Todd.
Oh, that's freaking hilarious.
You know what's funny is that's probably not the first time, even today, that sentence in that voice has been used.
Tell it to Todd.
Todd's probably walking around in the mirror going, tell it to Todd.
Oh, man. All right, guys. We're going to jump out of here. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been a blast. Y'all are real. We'll see you on Saturday. Until